Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Karl Bryan, here to answer all of your Zen-like questions. How is the Zen Master doing today, bud?
Yo, the Zen Master, I most certainly am not, but hey, we can all move in the right direction, Shoots. We can all move in the right direction. Maybe one day I'll be a Buddhist monk. What do you think? Would I look at as a Buddhist monk? Shaved head?
Sometimes you've got you'd have to, this is the problem. You'd have to shave off your locks to pull that off. And I don't know if that's a commitment you're ready to make.
You just changed my mind. That's it.
There you go. That's all it took. Just the golden locks cannot come off of your hair there. What was I going to say? Oh, geez. I'm all over the place today. No, I think, why don't we just jump straight in? And why don't we start with, I really like how we've been doing this lately. Let's talk about one needle moving sort of thing you've learned over this last week.
A needle moving thing I've learned over the last week. Tell you this, would you agree that anxiety is at record levels? And I'm listening to, and if listening to this, I'm going to guess that you've been listening to us for the last little while. This is something we've been talking about a little bit, but it absolutely is. And I would dare say, so the reason, we're just dealing with so much global news that's horrific, right? It's totally out of control. Social media, people will be on social media, cough, cough, me possibly included, far too much for literally hours a day. And it's Biden and Trump, it's Harry and Meghan, it's the princess has cancer. I don't know, the plane went down, the hurricane, we were just talking about, hurricane goes ripping through Texas and across the Caribbean, your friends getting a divorce, your friends struggling and telling the world on Facebook, your friend's daughter is struggling, which will probably hit you at a different level. It's a car accident, there's some local kids involved, it's a shark attack, it's a school shooting, it's a drunk driver, it's a court case. If it bleeds, it leads, right? So that dramatic, it's the world's just become Twitter in many, many ways. If you know anything about Twitter, you know that it's a real cesspool for drama. And I just think that, that stuff, it just never stops, right? And the solution, by the way, you got to concentrate on what you can control. You can't control the princess. You can't control, your friend getting a divorce, although maybe you want to engage in something like that so you'd help, right? Which would give you a little bit of, make you feel good, make them feel good, possibly be a solution. But what I'm getting at, the drunk driver, the court case, Meghan and Harry doing whatever the hell they're doing, you can't control any of that, right? So if you suffer from anxiety or you're feeling, more and more anxious, and generally speaking, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got more anxiety than the average person, something you want to think about doing is doing a tech and social media diet. Your anxiety is going to instantly half. So anyways, that's just something, this anxiety, which again, I got a little bit of it myself. And I just find it's just so many people talking to me about it all of a sudden, and I'm just seeing it everywhere. And I just think that it's something that you should be, again, it's the exact opposite of inner peace. And by the way, if you do feel anxious, you feel unsafe. So that the core of anxiety is feeling unsafe, is a little FYI. So possibly reverse engineering that for yourself might provide some value. But you know what else? Shoots, maybe this is what I was probably should have said, where I should have started, but with your coaching clients, right? If you've got high tolerance you have low standards, right? High tolerance translates into low standards. And I think that you can agree you do not want to have low standards for your coaching clients, which, by the way, is exactly like the kids, right? Kids grow up and they're super picky or super this, super that, super entitled. It's really, I can pretty much, with ridiculous predictability, point to parents who were too passive, who were too, let's just let this, they had high tolerance, way too high a tolerance. That said, you also, I don't know if you want to run your family like the military, not what I'm saying, but you got high tolerance, you have low standards with your coaching clients. So shoots, there you go. That's my thought, anxiety and too high levels of tolerance shoots.
Well, then maybe let's carry this on, and maybe we can continue on with perhaps KB's Zen tip of the week. Maybe able to help some people with this anxiety piece. I don't know. What do you got for us when it comes to the Zen piece?
Is this officially a thing? Are we going to be going to Zen every week? Is that the plan?
Well, yeah. I'm just not even gonna. I'm not sure. Yes, 100%. This is happening. It's happening right now.
By the way, but anyway, okay. So look, let's get Zen. Look, growth, personal growth, and contributing beyond yourself is pretty much at the top of everyone's happiness / inner peace meter, right? I believe, again, Tony Robbins, he needs screaming that from the mountaintops: growth and contribution, growth and contribution. But I think, growth and contributing beyond yourself is right there as far as your levels of happiness and your levels of, we'll assume, inner peace and happiness are not so much one of the same, but they're sisters. I tell you that change of environment, okay? So you want to grow and you want to contribute. Change of environment can be a monster hack for inner peace, anxiety, success. And that goes for like your relationship, that goes for your business, that goes for your personal growth. You name it, your environment matters at a very, very high level. So moving environments could get you, it will get you out of your comfort zone. And then translation, that will force you to grow. And again, growth and contribution is, right there as far as your own personal happiness. And I think that's, growth is good for the soul. Put it that way. I moved my family to the Caribbean not too long ago, and I've talked many a times on this and elsewhere that it's been flat out amazing. I would have never dreamt, I would have never thought of leaving Kelowna. And I got to tell you, it's just been absolutely amazing. That's not to say we won't end up back in Kelowna, who knows, but the Caribbean has been amazing, and it's the growth of the family unit, both as a family unit and personally. So, and by the way, when I say that though, let's make sure not running from your problems when you move. That would be like a conversation for a different day and maybe a different podcast we could talk about. Like that's not what if you're running, that's, what I mean? That is absolutely not one of the same. So I'd be a little bit careful with that, looking, maybe just reverse engineer some of the reasoning behind, a potential move. But, if the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, maybe there's a septic leak, right? So something to think about. Also just look, so financially, let's face it, you could talk about Zen and then putting finances right beside it. I don't think that they fit perfectly, but I do think that they fit. I retired my dad to Mexico. I go all the time, and provided you stay off like the tourist route, it's insanely cheap, right? Like if you find a way to make, I don't even know, $75,000 virtually, and then move to Mexico, Bali, Thailand, Costa Rica, I don't know, one of the cheaper places in the world, and there's lots of them. You live like an absolute superstar with no financial pressure. And that might lead to a little bit of the inner peace that may or may not elude you. And money, so look again, okay, so bottom line, growth and contribution, huge. One of the ways to do that is to move periodically. Let's just say every 5 years is a frame. Some people want to do that. Some people don't want to do that. Some people can't do that because of financial commitments, etc. But I will tell you, like money and success tend to follow people who can control their emotions, right? Those that can't control their emotions tend to give all the money back. And again, if you are living in an environment, you are growing, you're contributing beyond yourself, and you're living somewhere where $75,000, 100, and, make $250,000 in Mexico. Again, you'd be, I'm not talking about pesos here, I'm talking about USD. You'd be living like an absolute stinking rock star for significantly less. So again, as long as you stay off the, the tourist beaten track, which quite frankly can get very expensive, you could end up doing real good. But again, I'm trying to say that because I feel like if you had less financial pressure, you'd be less emotional. And if you were less emotional, your opportunity to keep that money. Remember, you can get lucky and make it. You can't get lucky and keep it, right? So again, those types of things I think could put you in a more calm state of mind. I don't know that that's overly zen, quite frankly, but contributing beyond yourself and personal growth lead to happiness and inner peace. And I think that's got zen written all over it. So that's my answer, Shoots. How'd I do?
Good. So, you know what? I want to keep this train going a bit. So here's what I want to do, though. I want you to give me some rapid fire, quick answers. Operative word, quick. And that's a perfect one to start. Does money buy small business owners happiness?
Ooh, shoot. Quick answer. You're giving me, what do you, quick answers. Okay, short. I'm not good at that, Shoots. I'm not good at
that. Short, it's kind of fitting. It's been a while, but there you go.
Nice. Okay. Well, Rockefeller was the richest man in the world at one time and lost all his hair. Musk will tell you, it was just not recently, but like he came out and he's like, you wouldn't want to be me. It's not worth it. Right? He's like, don't to yourself. Like you wouldn't want to trade places with me. So that said, does money buy happiness? But there is a level you need to get to, or money is the root of all of your worries, right? So money doesn't buy you happiness, but the lack of it can buy you unhappiness and lots of stress. Did I word that well? You know what I mean? Like again, like lack thereof can lead to a lot of unhappiness, and that's the opposite of happiness. So I'm going to say that you got to get yourself to that, and let's call that $100,000 a year for the sake of the argument. Make that your, the center of the dartboard where you got to get to, and once you get to a certain point, and I think this is relevant for those that have never had some serious financial security. Once you get, let's call it $1 million a year, and frankly, the number's a lot less than that, but just easy math here today. Get to $1 million a year, and money has very little utility after that. Like, yeah, you can go buy a new, supercar, or maybe it's a new boat, and maybe it's a better boat, and maybe if you're going to get super aggressive, you could talk about jet, etc. Which again, that's just like, you're not making $1 million a year and then buying a jet, right? Not happening. So yeah, it's, what I mean? It doesn't, I guess is what I'm saying. But remember, the secret to wealth, which I think this is important, right? The secret to wealth is to live below your means and then invest the balance, right? Like that is a PH frickin' D. And I know as I say it, it's so almost trite and platitudinal and fundamental, but it is so true, right? You've got, and by the way, then the further that you can live beyond your means and the more that you can invest, the better, the better you're going to be. So yeah, those, And lots of people 10 times smarter than me answering that question out there, but that's mine, Shoots. What do you think?
Okay, so hold on a second though, because when you say the secret to wealth is to live below your means and invest the rest, I'm curious now where you're investing this. So what's your opinion of the stock market for small business? Because I've got real strong feelings about this, but your opinion of the stock market for small business owners.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Look, it's a wonderful tool to build wealth, but it is situational, right? Like so if you have a 5%, you pay 5% on your mortgage, right? So the interest on your mortgage payment is 5%. You should pay that down and then you'd make a guaranteed 5%, right? Like again, over the long haul, if you're making a 10% return in the stock market, you're doing pretty darn well. But most people, what they do, actually, I wrote this literally in an email today. This is a Peter Lynch quote. I'll probably make a meal of it, but it's like selling your winners and holding your losers is like going to the garden and cutting your flowers and watering the weeds, right? So selling your winners and holding your losers is the premise. And by the way, that quote where I found that was that Warren Buffett read a book by Peter Lynch and then said, "Can I use this quote?" So he read like the entire book, and then he goes to that quote and says, "Oh my God, can I use it?" And of course, Peter Lynch said, "Go for it." But selling your winners and holding your losers, my heavens. And I think maybe if you've ever invested, you know what that, you might know what that looks like. Again, everybody, what should you do? You should sell high and buy low. What does everybody do? They buy high and sell low. Like, it's insane. The wealth is a Ferris wheel where it takes 8 years to go up and 2 years to come down. In fact, 8.5 years to go up and 1.5 years to go down. And again, just think of 2000, think of 2008, and no doubt there will be a cliff in the not too distant future. And if those that are not prepared are not, understanding of, the economic world, will be handing a lot of money back. But anyway, so look, picking stocks is a bad idea generally, right? The best deals never see the market, little FYI, okay? So dollar cost averaging the S&P 500, you don't know what that is, hopefully you do. Simply put, it's the 500 most successful companies. So if you've got like 498 and you have a bad quarter, you'll drop off and somebody else will come in, okay? So the one thing that will always remain true for the most successful companies in the world is they will want to grow and want to make more money. That is good. So therefore, you can be comfortable that the S&P 500 should increase consistently over time. And yes, it will have little hiccups and whatnot, but what you do is you dollar cost average, which means you just take, let's call it $100 a week, $1,000 a week, $10,000 a week, depending upon your appetite and your abilities. And you just do the same amount every single week, right? So that way, when it's down, you'll be buying better, and when it's up, you'll be buying worse, but you won't miss all of the gains in the stock market. If you look at the gains in the stock market over the last 100 years, you will be able to isolate about 50 days over the last 100 years where all of the gains were. So what you got to do is you need to have your money in the market on those days. So that's why they say you shouldn't try and time the market. So framework, they should be in, look, okay, stock market shoots, I just got to say this, and I know you said quick, but they should be investing in their own business. So you're going to take 50 grand and put it into the stock market, pay a staff member $50,000, a sales guy, and potentially make $500,000 over time. The difference is like the social media thing I was talking about earlier, you have control. You've got no control over the real estate market. You got no control over the stock market, but you do have control over your own business and your own staff members. So that's leverage 101, and leverage is the key to wealth. And if you're listening to this, hopefully that is no surprise, but that is absolute. Leverage is the key to wealth, whether it be money, whether it be time, whether it be other people's time, whether it be code, etc. So, like a business coach, real quick shoots, I'm throwing it back to you, but you get a business coach and then he hires somebody for 50 grand a year to basically talk about them, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, every month, every quarter, every year. How could that not turn? If you charge 2 grand a month, that's 24 grand a year. Could you get 2 clients that stay? And I dare say that that should happen, right? And by the way, the whole idea of the stock market was to give the average family an opportunity to share in the growing wealth of a nation. Well, now a company does a quarterly earnings call and they're profitable, but they're not as profitable as the shareholders wanted. And what do? They lay off a bunch of workers, right? So we're not profitable enough, so you lose your job. And that flies in the face of our fathers that basically created the stock market and the purpose of the entire thing, which should, you should take that and think about it. You know what I mean? Like, what can you control? And you can control your own company. This is where you should be investing If you know what I mean, and if you don't have a staff member, put your money there. If you've got lots of staff members, it might be time for you to be leveraging, real estate stuff. I mean, you should be doing that anyways, but hopefully you're understanding percentage-wise, your real wins, your monumental wins, your big, big, big 100% gains, 1,000% gains will come in your own company. So that's my answer, Shoots. How to do?
Well, okay. So speaking of leverage, and you brought real estate into this, so this is 100% on you. Let's go there. Speaking of leverage, then, what's your opinion of like real estate investing?
Look, you need 10 years or a boom, right? Delayed gratification on steroids. The real money in real estate will be made on capital gains and not in the rental payments, despite what some of the experts might tell you. And house flippers, we've talked about this a lot, right? Like house flippers get caught. It's ridiculously consistent, right? And they win, lose it all. Win, lose it all. Win, lose it all. And hopefully they just had a few wins, so when they lose, you know what I mean, they managed to sock a bit away. But buy and hold is the way that you want to be thinking about real estate. And again, people much smarter than I. There's multifamily versus single family. Like my real estate is all single family. And then if you lose a renter for a month, that eats into your profits pretty bad, right? But you get better renters though, so you do get better renters, like a family that's going to stick around for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then multifamily, think of like an apartment building, so you're going to have lower rents, lower end renters, and then that can bring some challenges that you may or may not want. So you gotta, again, you gotta educate yourself. What's your appetite? Do you want to be, I don't know, you know what I mean? So no doubt you could kind of get the different frames. You got single family, multifamily, and buy and hold and flip, etc. I mean, if you do flip and and you make $100,000, that can be awesome. But flip, take your dough and then stop, and maybe do it a second time and then stop. But even as I say that, then what happens? It becomes a bit of an addiction, and house flippers get caught with their pants down ridiculously high percentage of the time. By the way, don't listen to what I'm saying. Go look at the stats. You tell me what the stats say, but that's what they say. Like I was talking to my dad literally the other day, right? And he's talking about how interest rates back in, people moaning, blah, 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 blah. Interest rates were 18% back in the day when, we bought this house. But see the difference. I'm like, Dad, yeah, but how much was the house? And it was like 50 grand. And now they're like 500 grand. You know what I mean? So again, it is not apples to apples. It is not apples to oranges either, because of course there's inflation and that sort of thing. But trying to compare real estate in the 80s and real estate today, and interest in the 80s and interest today is a little bit difficult, a little bit of apples versus oranges. And the solution to all of that is educate yourself, educate. But ultimately, okay, so leverage, right? Your ultimate leverage, and Road Dog, you know this, I know this. Hopefully, if you're listening, this is going to make a lot of sense, but hopefully at a higher level, and that the ultimate leverage is your network, right? Steve Ballmer, who's now worth, I believe, more than Bill Gates. He was, one of the Microsoft guys early on. And he says that the greatest thing that happened to him economically, or to do with his money or to do with his wealth, is being put in the same dorm room as Bill Gates. Right? Like that was it. And by the way, I can't remember Edward, the guy from Facebook, the co-owner, the whole, the movie Social Network was basically designed around the two of them, right? What about Steve Jobs? Like if Woz didn't grow up on the same street, would Steve Jobs's, career took a similar path? And I would dare say not. It would have been a whole lot different. Probably would have been equally successful, because I think that Jobs is just a lunatic, and that he would have worked hard enough and found a breakthrough. But at the end of the day, if they didn't grow up in the same street, so build your network. And remember, it's not, what do they say? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's actually not true. It's who knows you. So you got to put yourself in positions, and you got to put yourself in spots where, you can network at a high level. And so then you go, okay, the local networking group, but like that, if you go to the local BNI group, God bless them all, it's great, but you're going to find a lot of people who are quite frankly, just hiding from the real work they're trying to avoid. You know what I mean? Like they don't have thriving businesses. So, anyways, that's my answer, Shoots. That's my answer.
Okay, here's a bit of a different one for you. Need versus desire.
Ooh, need. Well, okay. Need versus desire. Your clients' products and services should provide for demand, not create it. I think that, like, there's a big difference, right? Do you want to dig a hole or fill a hole? Which one would be easier? And clearly filling a hole, right? So need, what am I trying to say there? So what do you say, need and desire? Need would be the higher level priority over desire by a lot, right? So an example I've used for years and years is dog food versus dog vitamins, right? If you're in the game of dog food, you got to get to Costco and Safeway and the grocery store at eye level with good packaging, which sounds easy, incredibly hard to do, very expensive, versus dog vitamins. If you're in the game of dog vitamins, you're in the game of education. If you're in the game of dog food, I just kind of explained it. Or, it's painkillers versus vitamins. Which one do you think makes more money? And the answer is painkillers. Because again, that is a need versus, it's cure versus prevention. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So the cure is going to be an easier sell than prevention. It's like, like Dave Ramsey, he's always talking about, like if you don't know who that is, hopefully, I imagine you do, but he's a billionaire, as I understand it. If he's not, he's pretty darn close, but he's a billionaire what do we call him? Info marketer, right? Like, so that's his real game. So if you're an entrepreneur, you want to watch like the advice that he's giving. You want to be very, very careful to be taking it. You kind of want to be doing the polar opposite a lot of the time. But if you're making 60 grand a year working at the local supermarket, that would be different. And that's who Dave Ramsey's speaking to. And God bless him. And that's great. And he's doing a great job of that. But as an entrepreneur, I think I suggest you should be watching Dave Ramsey, and I watch Dave Ramsey, but what I'm really doing is watching the way that he markets himself as opposed to the advice that he's giving. And again, a lot of that advice, you just want to, it might not be the best for you if you are, if you're an entrepreneur, right? Okay, so maybe as a frame, two Shoots, what you do with your money is more important than what you do for your money, okay? What you do with your money, remember earlier, you gotta live below your means and invest the balance. There's your PhD. No one's, it's almost scary how few people are doing it, right? That most people don't have a household budget and wouldn't have a clue how much it costs them to live per week, per day, per week, per month, et cetera. So anyways, yeah, that's so a big difference, but I really think where we're trying to go there, need is significantly higher priority over desire when it comes to, marketing and getting people's attention, et cetera. So how do I do? What do you think? Is that what you're?
Well, you're talking a lot about almost building an offer, right? Like when you're talking painkillers versus vitamins, cure, prevention,
Yeah.
like you're really talking about offers in many ways. Can you just real quick, let's put the cherry on top to close this out. What's the best framework for creating an offer?
Okay, best framework for creating an offer. So you got to highlight a problem. So problem becomes number one. Number two, you want to intensify it. You want to pour gasoline on that problem. If they don't solve it, bad things are coming, right? Then you want to have a call to action. And then you want to be, solution. So what is that? Problem, intensify that bad boy, have a call to action, and then a solution. In fact, you know what? So the best offer, who has the best offer of all time is none other than Jesus Christ himself. Like you talk about a market message match. And again, I might make a meal of this, so apologies, but come to me all who labor and are heavy laden, Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest, right? Like think of that. So present the problem. Okay, so that's, all those who labor. So labor is the problem, right? Who doesn't feel like they're laboring. Intensify it, heavy laden, right? Call to action, come to me. And then the solution is, guess what? You talk about Zen, but rest, right? Simple, tight, complete, precise. There you go. But there's look, framework, problem, intensify it, call to action, solution. So that's my answer shoots. How'd I do? What do you think? You like that, by the way?
I do. It's that whole intensifying thing, right? It's that whole one of the best lessons I was ever taught is everyone wants to preach heaven without talking about hell. And the problem is when people are in their own, if you will, personal hell of some point, there's a problem that they don't like. If
Yep.
you can highlight that and speak the language that they're speaking to themselves within that problem, now you're relatable, and it's building that trust, right? So totally agree. Why don't you close us out with I feel like we covered a lot here, and maybe that is it, right? Like probably the biggest challenge that business coaches face is just helping create their own offer. Why don't we close out with that, Karl? Why don't we close out with, you're a business coach, you're starting out. What's the offer that you're putting out there that is going to magnify a problem, and then you're going to show them how to solve it?
Well, I can tell you that the software, like we can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. That right there would be, you're going to struggle mightily and work in business coaching for a long time. And notice that we say find, right? So again, it's not we're taking 100 grand and shoving it into your bank account, right? From a compliance standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, we can, again, and you could have Warren Buffett, you could have Tony Robbins, you could have whoever you want in front of you. And I think that if you said something to that effect, I think that you would find, you would raise their eyebrows. Like, and where that came from. So back in the day, I did a promotion, how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach, right? And then I had a video, and then I built a huge list of business coaches, and I followed that up with how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. And I can tell you that the three different, so then you go find 100 grand in 45 minutes without spending a dollar on marketing or advertising. They're all, they follow a consistent framework, very consistent, the one we just went over. And that would be, and then of course you're going to need software. So you must be using our profit acceleration software in order to solve that problem or follow through on that promise. And it's, quite frankly, it's a lot. It's so much easier to do than anybody would normally realize who hasn't seen it. So that's my answer.
Let me ask you though, because obviously you've got a lot of people that have obviously done really, really well, but you've obviously got a lot of people that have kind of blown out as coaches. Do you think it's a lack of conviction? Like, is that all it is? Like, what are they missing? Like, you're basically giving them the blueprint to success, and they're still not having success. Like, is it just a lack of belief and conviction, or what do you think it is?
So if two people sit down, okay, and then I'm trying to say it's me and Dave, it's either Dave sells me on him not needing my thing, or I sell him on needing my thing. You know what I mean? Like somebody makes the sale, assuming that there's rapport. There's got to be rapport. So assuming that there's rapport, then somebody wins that, right? And the person, where I'm getting at, the person with the most conviction is going to win that battle a huge percentage of the time. Huge. So yes, conviction shoots that. If you introduce me to, because again, business coaches are always like, oh, I got no leads. And I'm like, introduce me to a business coach with a lack of leads. I'll introduce you to a business coach with a lack of confidence. right? It's just it's conviction and they're scared poopless that somebody's going to say yes and then they're actually going to have to deliver. That's the needle mover right there. That's the unlock. And the really good news is it's just not that hard. Like in example in the software, so we've got like the Jumpstart 12 and you've got 12 areas, right? And then very seldom do they have any one of the 12 areas dialed in. But let's just assume that they've got 2 and then you've got 10. When you go to the 10 areas, upsell, downsell, cross-sell, proper upfront offer, controlling costs, etc. That's 12 fundamentals of business of success, right? Very similar to the way McDonald's built their business, very similar to the way that we have these 12 areas that you go. So you don't need to hit a home run in any one area. You got to get a 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%, 3% in all, you know what I mean, in the number. And I said 10 areas. And the exponential compounding growth that provides for their profits is absolutely gobsmacking, like absolutely gobsmacking. So if they don't have a market dominating position, think of a unique selling proposition, but we teach it a little bit differently where a market dominating position solves the unique, the number one problem that they have. But at the end of the day, they don't have it. You don't need to create something that's revolutionary. You need to create a really, really, really bad market dominating position and then let it improve over time, right? You're not good at reading financial statements and understanding expenses and negotiation, et cetera. Okay, a 3% improvement, like a 3% decrease in their expenses, a 3% improvement is so easy to do. It's scary. They don't have like an upfront compelling offer the way we were just describing a minute ago. Okay, create a really, 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 really bad one and just get a 3% jump. They don't even have it, so just create a 3% jump. Upsell, do you want, or cross-sell, do you want fries with that? They don't even have it. So again, plug it in. Upsell, do you want me to supersize it? Again, they don't have it, so create a bad one. You're working with a lawyer and it's like, do you want a will with that? Instead of, do you want a fries with that, for the cross-selling? So anyway, shoots, so you get this massive impact. So that's, again, a little bit of a hack, and the unlock with us is that we just make it so easy to help a business owner. And that's how we do it, shoots. That's the magic.
Love it. Love it. It's just believing and trusting the process, like everything, right? So that's always the hardest part for anyone to do, to believe it is in fact that easy. It's sort of like I always keep saying, you talked about earlier about the investing back into your business. Like if you threw 50 grand at me, where would I put it? I would put it straight to live events, because I know I could easily turn that 50 into 500,000. It's just, it blows my mind that I get out of the habit of doing events. And every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I don't know why the hell I'm not doing this all the time. Like, it's just so stupid, right? Like, anyways, it is what it is. It's just knowing what works. But listen, folks, you know what else works? This podcast. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the King of the Caribbean himself, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, you want to learn more about this profit acceleration software, go to focus.com, learn more, subscribe, do all the things. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it, please like it, please leave reviews, as we want to obviously get this message out to as many business coaches as possible. And that is it for another week. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.